Hi, I am Sam. No, not that Sam. And honestly, green eggs and ham never really did it for me. I'm more of a cereal man. I can communicate in 9 languages, kind of. Hola, soy Samuel. But speaking anything fluently other than English is a bit of a task.
Habla inglés.
I'm from Tasmania. Yes, that is part of Australia. And my degree in mechanical engineering has never been used for anything other than getting my mum off my back. Yes, Mum, my room's clean. Can I go outside and play in Russia now? I guess I'm an ordinary Tasmanian-grown human being. I work 9 to 6, 5 days a week. I have a university degree. I get motion sick. And just like you, I have feet. Size 16 though. And I have a name for each. I call them left and right. Left and right have carried me 15,500 kilometres around the world. No, you didn't misunderstand. I travelled 15,500 kilometres on foot from 2006 to 2008. It hurt. A lot. I guess I'm part Forrest Gump, part Francis of Assisi, with a bit of Bear Grylls thrown in. Only my specialty is in finding lonely dim sims in remote villages. While walking the world, I was held at gunpoint, knife point, repeatedly beaten up and almost eaten by a puma. I was hospitalised with salmonella poisoning, typhoid fever, food poisoning, heart arrhythmia, a dislodged hip, and I had an ouchie on my big toe. No, seriously, the thing almost fell off. It wasn't about survival though. It was about a mission. For unity. I stopped walking over 4 years ago. But the journey never really finished. And neither did people's jokes about me not needing a lift home because I could just walk. Yeah, funny. Seriously, give me a lift. I met a lot of people on that journey from Brazil to Spain. Some had smiles, some had shotguns, and confusingly, some had both. I now speak about the lessons from that little walk in around 90 high schools and organisations every year. I experienced both kindness and disdain while travelling, but one man in particular, in Panama, made an impact that cut deep. His name was Adolfo. His family was starving, and yet he fed and housed me in his tin shed home. I don't know much more about him than that. I know his first name, and I have one grainy photograph. What I do know is that I've wanted to find him ever since, to return the favour and help him. Over the years I've tried to track him down, but always came up empty-handed. The time came to put my life on hold, jump on a plane and go back to Central America to thank those who'd helped me and to search for Adolfo. The likelihood of finding him was about the same as finding a needle in a jungle. Pretty slim. But sometimes you have to put out into the deep and take the first step. Or plane in this case. Remember that little list of bad things that happened to me? Well, most of that happened in a country to the southeast of Panama called Venezuela. It's apparently even worse now, averaging 54 murders a day. And that's where we'll start. Venezuela and then Panama. 2 countries over 2 weeks in 1 car. I nearly lost my life a few times back in 2007, and that's why this time I'm travelling with 2 friends, Daniel and Wojtek, a cameraman and a doctor. Oh, it doesn't matter that they're a cameraman and a doctor. What matters is that if we get into trouble this time, I can outrun both of them. Bag packed, shoes laced, flimsy plan laid out. Buckle up, we're going back to the Americas.
So right now we're heading into a town called Guazapati, but we're not stopping here, and we're not even slowing down for speed bumps. Wojtek. We're heading on to a town called Tumarimo, and what I know from my itinerary, I'd written down that it was 31 kilometres from Fernando Jr. and Jose's farm to get to Tumarimo. So when we pass through Tumarimo, we'll simply hit the odometer, retrace 31 kilometres back, and hopefully at that point we'll come to something that looks remotely similar to what I remember their farm looking like. And hopefully they are there.
In 2007, I literally ran into Fernando, Junior and Jose on a pitch-black country road on the edge of the jungle. We scared the wits out of each other. They responded by inviting me out of danger to stay the night at their humble, isolated home. They were incredibly poor. The boys shared a solitary toy, deodorant balls, but they didn't stop laughing and chatting the whole time. 5 years down the road now, we've set out to find them again. This time, in daylight. After 31 kilometres, there was nothing resembling what I remembered. So we stopped at a place roughly where the home of Jose and the boys should have been. After some explanations, including deodorant pantomimes, we discovered that we had in fact stopped exactly where we were supposed to.
But it's a different house.
I don't know.
Esta fue la casa que tomamos nosotros aquí.
You can see.
Sí, era la casa que estaba aquí. La casa que estaba. Se ve el tronco. La casa era aquí. Este pedazo.
So she's just told us that that house has been torn down. But if you look very carefully, you can see these green boards going up and down. And they're now over here horizontal. So they've used the same boards, they've reused it. The tin you can still see used around here. But this here, as she was just showing us, is where the house used to stand, and it was a lot smaller. So that makes me feel better. My mind is not fading. It's as it was. Unfortunately, they're not here though. So it's going to make it interesting to search for these guys. It's quite amazing how quickly, like the house is just gone, they've built a new house. But we do know that they're at least not far away. It's just that it's going to be more difficult to find them in a big town. So you have to do some quick searching.
We checked into a hotel in nearby Tumarimo and set about tracking down Jose and his boys. By the next morning, we'd found someone who knew them and confirmed that they lived nearby. We were, however, faced with a dilemma.
So this is the awkward thing. I want to see their house. Like, I know they're in a dangerous area, and we've been told by some locals not to go there because they had 3 murders in the last week. The woman who wants to take us there says, no, it's fine. It's no different to the central square where we were last night, which, to be honest, it probably isn't. But there's other locals who are saying they would never go there. Police don't go there because it's dangerous. But I want to see his house. I want to see where they're living now. And look, things have changed. Wojtek's married with 2 children. I'm married, no children, but I'm married. We've got a bit more to risk now, and there's a bit of a responsibility beyond just doing what we want to do.
It's not just our lives. The risk. It's like influence to more people. So I'm for that he comes here.
Or we meet somewhere neutral.
It's neutral, no. Unless he will be able to ride his horse inside.
The hotel receptionist said it was too dangerous and forbade us to enter the area the family lived. But she did propose a solution. She called the family and invited them to meet us in the hotel lobby. Jose was out of town, but the mum, who I hadn't met previously, turned up with Fernando and Junior, plus the newest addition to the family. It was wonderful to see them again. That being said, there was a big difference between 2007 and now. Namely that they were no longer in their home environment and they were dressed up with an expectation to be polite and respectful. It also became apparent that although my memory was great, my Spanish wasn't. Jose wasn't their dad. He was their godfather, and they'd gone there to visit. They did play soccer though, and neither had a soccer ball, so my gift was still met with thankfulness. The whole encounter immediately rendered my memory of any conversations in Spanish as unreliable. I really hoped I hadn't misunderstood Adolfo. At least the acts of kindness showed to me remained true. As we left southeastern Venezuela, I hoped that my memory of having ended my encounter with the shotgun farmer well was correct. I'm pretty sure we ended on a good note. After a lot of pointing, We made a quick pit stop to check out the place where I'd come face to face with a puma. We couldn't find the puma for an interview, but we did find the same Polish priest who'd showed me hospitality after the puma encounter in 2007, and he again opened his door. He was seemingly relieved more than anything to have Wojtek there, a fellow Polish speaker. We chatted, we checked out the town, and we relaxed for the night. We needed to travel quite a few hundred kilometres to make our next destination, so we played Wojtek's travel game, called Spot the Dog, to pass the time. Every dog spotted gained that person a point.
Spot the dog. Spot the dog.
It wasn't always easy.
Dog spot.
Some dogs didn't count.
Dead dog.
And when Dan the cameraman spotted a dog that was actually a goat, we happily slapped him with -5 points. By lunchtime we were back at the front gate of the shotgun farmer. He'd held a gun to my head back in 2007. Our encounter had ended well, so I didn't think it'd be too dangerous catching up with him. But I was honestly petrified of that first hello. My nerves didn't exactly settle when a complete stranger started approaching the gate.
Hola. Soy de australiano. There's no pistole? Show? You show both hands?
Okay, here's the problem. In a country averaging 52 murders a day, at this point, I was wondering if I was about to become a statistic myself. And until I could see both hands in the air, that probability remained high. I immediately found myself stepping back into the same situation I'd found myself in 5 years earlier.
Gracias.
I was grateful to not be looking down the barrel of a gun again.
Yo buscar por hombre. Yo caminar el mundo a pie. Yo para aquí, sí, Brasil a España a pie. 1,5 años.
Medio año.
Sí, pero yo para aquí por la comida. And, sí.
Él en una motocicleta se mató.
Oh no.
Una motocicleta.
¿Dónde?
It was sad to hear of the shotgun farmer's passing, but it was a bizarre situation to be in. Part of me wanted to mourn the passing of the man who'd pushed a gun into my head and ask after the now widowed wife. But the other part of me wanted to keep an eye on the new guy with a pistol tucked into his belt. I opted to maintain the current conversation while saying a quiet prayer for the shotgun farmer and his now widowed wife. I explained to him how I'd arrived at his front gate back in 2007 and why I was walking around the world at the time. I also explained how I'd been held at gunpoint by the previous farmer.
So this is Jose, and the guy we're looking for isn't here any longer. He's basically informed us that he died on a motorbike accident just down the road here. Fell off his bike and died. So it's pretty sad. I mean, obviously it's fairly tense coming up to here. I mean, I could see as Jose walked forward from the house that it wasn't the guy that I'd seen previously. The tense thing was he had his hand in his pocket as he walked up. And is pistol? Hey? Calibre. So he had a gun, and I just started to back away as soon as I realised he wasn't bringing his hand out. He was holding onto something. So it's funny being back in this same place and possibly in the same situation again. But understand for him, it's dangerous here. It's peligroso. So a little bit. But I guess for him not knowing who we are, pretty standard. So now I'm on the other side of the fence.
Jose was happy to welcome me in, but I needed to take a few deep calming breaths in order to take up that hospitality with his loaded gun still within reach.
Really nervous. Look, it'd be interesting to get his viewpoint on life here. It's interesting looking at it from here.
I'm looking forward to sleeping later tonight. Jose was young, married, he loved his wife, his extended family, his work, and he loved riding horses. It was a simple life out on the farm, but they were happy.
I was suddenly back in the same situation. He's got a gun, but as soon as you break down the barrier, he's genuinely a really nice guy. There's just this, even though he was saying it's not that dangerous around here, it's just accepted that you would approach a stranger with a gun. You've got to get past that barrier to get to the goodness, to get to the humanity of the person. So the bizarre thing, it feels like I've almost relived the same situation again. So, look, happy to have met that young man. No, honestly, not that happy to have put myself back into that situation. I don't like having to prove myself innocent when you come in fresh as a stranger. It's nice to have someone approach you with an open hand and not with a gun.
Our next stop, some 50-odd kilometres and a number of mosquito collisions later, was not a planned stop. On a random stretch of country road, I spotted a house that I recognised, and standing at the front gate, a very genuine fellow who'd welcomed me in 5 years ago. Meet Brioni and his friends. We took some time out to hang out with them. And their bird. But basically we just enjoyed each other's company.
Este no es espíritu, licor, es como vino, como uva.
Before Brioni shared some thoughts with us.
Bueno, o sea, sí es importante, ¿no? Pero es porque la familia está toda unida. O sea, se ayuda.
Sí.
¿Me entiendes? O sea, te ayudo, yo te ayudo a ti, tú lo ayudas a él, todo familia. Aquí la familia se amplía mucho. Aquí en la comunidad, todo, es una sola familia.
¿Tú crees tú pobre o rico?
Pobre.
Pobre.
Ok, pobre, pero feliz. Happy. Porque uno tiene lo que necesita. Y
vivimos felices.
Feliz.
Amigos.
Mucho.
Comida.
Todo.
Comida.
I asked Brioni why he'd invited me in off the road when I walked past in 2007.
O sea, aquí en Venezuela, ¿no? Nosotros hablamos con toda la gente, pero el gringo aquí en Venezuela es malo.
Sí.
Porque nuestro pueblo queremos y ayudamos a la gente de afuera. Nosotros lo vimos, la hora, ya oscuro. Yo, hey, ven.
It was getting dark, and in 1 hour, and that's why they called you to come in.
Gracias.
Entonces lo vimos, ven acá, ven.
Sí.
We said goodbye to Brioni and his friends and pushed on into yet another sunset.
I heard a speech from the president, Hugo Chavez, a few years ago, where he said that gringos needed to be ridded from Venezuela like rats from a sewer, and if they don't, go kill them. And that's the president saying that. So it's okay here to do that. So racial abuse is okay, it's fine. And so it really takes someone to step out of that group thinking and stand on their own 2 feet. Actually, just because the government says it's okay, or the government's encouraging it for whatever reason, doesn't mean it's fine. So every single person has that responsibility to weigh up what they're viewing, weigh up the actions and the reactions of the people around them, to come to some sort of conclusion of what the ideal situation would be. I know being idealistic is often seen as a negative thing, but there are very positive connotations for being idealistic. Look at what it could be, to be hope-filled in what the world could look like, should look like, what a loving community, what a loving family is, what it is to carry God's love into the world around us, and then be a part of it, even if it's very difficult if no one else steps out to make a difference. If no one else steps forward to make some sort of change, it's very difficult to do it yourself, to actually take that first step. But we need people to make those first steps.
Dan, the cameraman, was particularly happy with this shot, thanks mainly to our talented Polish co-driver. We won't mention the fact that he used toilet paper. We'll just say that he's adaptive to local resources. Good job, Wojtek. It's Sunday morning, and I'm finishing up a blog that we're keeping as we go on this journey.
Finishing up the breakfast.
Wojtek's going to finish off his breakfast, which is fantastic. This is. Can you get that open? No. It's typical Venezuelan pastry. We've decided that the elements of this are egg, flour, milk, a little bit of sugar, a little bit of oil, but to perfection. Yeah, perfect. We're going to find some breakfast later on. We're heading about 150 kilometres to the west today, and we're heading off early. We'll go to Mass this morning. We might hang in that town for an hour, and then we'll continue west up to a town called Agua Blanca, which is where I had food poisoning back in 2007, and the town took me in.
We're not planning on repeating the food poisoning, are we?
Wojtek might repeat the food poisoning aspect, and then we'll push him into the village, see who takes care of him, and see how the elements come together, and hopefully they'll come together as good as these pastries. After Mass, we finally arrived in Agua Blanca and began trying to track down the folks who'd taken me in back in 2007. We began at a small pub and immediately found one of the guys I'd previously hung out with. He agreed to take us to meet the family who'd looked after me when I had food poisoning. It was so heartwarming to have the mum recognise me without hesitation.
¿Cómo se llama? ¿Cómo se llama?
José Luis.
José Luis. José Luis. Okay, and Samuel.
Ay,
De Australia. Es mi amigo Wojtek de Polonia. Wojtek caminar conmigo en Polonia. Porque hospitalidad. Gringos.
Bueno,
Pero
Dios dice, ven, usted me presentó, bueno, nosotros con demasiado gusto de corazón, miren, lo recibimos sin conocerlo y sin nada. Le dimos nuestra estadía aquí en la casa. Feliz.
Dios dice.
yeah,
God said to share the house. I think that's what he said.
Bueno, bien, gracias.
In a country that's so anti-gringo, i.e. racist, I continued my quest to find out why so many people had taken me in.
Porque Agua Blanca diferencia. Porque es tranquilo.
Un pueblo más pequeño y, o sea, ya todo el mundo se conoce y no hay esa rivalidad de personas que van a estar, qué sé yo, peleando y discriminando a las personas que vienen de otro lado para acá, pues. Es un pueblo muy cariñoso. La familia, nuestros padres, nuestras amistades. Sí. Y las metas que nos proponemos, pues. Por eso, esas son las cosas por las cuales somos felices en esta vida. Sobre todo la familia.
La vida aquí. ¿Pobre o rico?
Feliz. Ahora sí como estamos felices.
Pobre pero feliz.
Claro.
No son muy unidos, en familia no son muy unidos.
Amigos.
Tienen mucha plata pero más no. Bueno, acá a pesar que somos pobres somos muy unidos, pues nuestras amistades siempre están compartiendo, siempre están unidos, a pesar de ser pobres.
It's a little bit nerve-wracking coming back in here, wondering whether they'd remember me or have any idea why I was even here. But what is very awesome is that it seems that very little has changed. The guys have grown up a bit. but still has the same hospitality that it had 5 years ago. And it's, again, a joy to actually meet the people and hang out with them and ride through town with them. They're showing us out of town at the moment. They're in convoy.
Our time in Venezuela was drawing to a close. There was just one more person I wanted to find before we set our sights towards Panama, and the search for Adolfo.